Yes, yes. Ravi Shankar Prasad ji. Yes. 16. What is it? ये कर रहे हैं ना? कर रहे हैं ना? वही कर रहे हैं.
Madam,
yes.
Before I move both the bills for consideration and make my introductory comments.
Move करो पहले. कर दिया है ना? Yes, yes.
Madam, I beg to move that this house.
Please.
That this house do suspend the provision of Rule 66 of the Rules of Procedure and the conduct of business in the Lok Sabha in application to the motion for taking into consideration and passing the National Judicial Appointment Bill 2014 in as much as it is dependent upon the Constitution 121st Amendment Bill 2014.
Yes. The question is that motion moved by Honorable Minister be approved, adopted. Those in favor may say aye. Aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Now, yes, please, please, please. Before we take up the combined discussion on the motions for consideration of the Constitution 121st Amendment Bill 2014 and the National Judicial Appointments Commission Bill 2014. So time has to be allotted for the discussion. I think if we, all of us agree, House agrees, we may allow 2 hours. 2 hours is sufficient for this. Okay? Let us see first. Yes. 3. Okay. 3 hours.
दीजिए, उसमें हो जाएगा. आधा घंटा क्वेश्चन होगा. 3 घंटा.
Okay, 3 hours. We can have 3 hours. Yes. So now, number 17 here.
Madam, I beg to move
Yes.
the bill to regulate the procedure to be followed by the National Judicial Appointment Commission for recommending persons for appointment as Chief Justice of India and other judges of Supreme Court and Chief Justice and other judges of the High Court, and for their transfer and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto be taken into consideration.
Yes. 17 bhi karo, sir.
Madam, I move that the Constitution of 121st Amendment Bill 2014 be kindly taken into consideration. Madam,
17 and 17. Yes.
both I have moved.
Yes.
Madam, I am indeed very, very grateful for Honorable the Speaker, this House, all the members, and Shri Kharge and my other colleagues in the opposition, honorable members, for permitting me to put this bill of great historical importance for consideration of this august House. Madam Speaker, the rationale of this bill I will come subsequently. But I would like to make 2 initial observations at the very outset. We all have the highest respect for the institution of judiciary. We all fully trust in the independence, in the integrity of the great institution of judiciary. Speaking for us, I would like to share with this House that many of us in our earlier student days activism have fought for the independence of judiciary. I am referring to 70s when there was a strain and a stress on independence of judiciary. There was a strain and a stress on individual freedom, also on press freedom. Many of us fought. And I am very assured to share with this House that many members of the present government, including Honorable the Prime Minister himself, have been in the forefront of that struggle, which was basically designed to ensure the independence of judiciary, the media freedom, and the individual freedom. And when we say we respect the institution of judiciary, we not only want it to be really independent, but we also share, applaud the courage of the institution of judiciary that let them be completely fearless too. Because an independent judiciary is indeed the very bedrock of our constitutional scheme of governance and of our democratic polity. When I was standing today as the Law Minister of India, initiating a debate on such a historic bill, I need also to salute the great judgments of the Supreme Court and High Courts, which has laid the foundation of the rule of law in India. The way they have developed many institutions to address the concerns of the poor and underprivileged to the genuine use of public interest litigations. And also, if there have been excesses by any of the segment, including the executive, they have come, whether in case of impropriety or corruption. These has been the real bedrock of our democratic credentials, that today judiciary is there an institution for respect. But why this bill? This is indeed very important. I would also like to share it. Honorable Speaker, Madam, one issue more I would like to dispel here at the very outset. I have seen some of the observations that we are rushing through the bill. I want to assure this House, with all the emphasis and responsibility at my command, that no, we are not at all rushing. What we are doing today, Madam Speaker, is basically the culmination of the exercise of the last 20 years. How many attempts have been made? Let me count. 67 Constitutional Amendment Bill in 1990. 82nd of our constitutional scheme of governance and of our democratic polity. When I was standing today as the Law Minister of India, initiating a debate on such a historic bill, I need also to salute the great judgments of the Supreme Court and High Courts, which has laid the foundation of the rule of law in India. The way they have developed many institutions to address the concerns of the poor and underprivileged to the genuine use of public interest litigations. And also, if there have been excesses by any of the segment, including the executive, they have come, whether in case of impropriety or corruption. These has been the real bedrock of our democratic credentials, that today judiciary is there an institution for respect. But why this bill? This is indeed very important. I would also like to share it. Honorable Speaker, Madam, one issue more I would like to dispel here at the very outset. I have seen some of the observations that we are rushing through the bill. I want to assure this House, with all the emphasis and responsibility at my command, that no, we are not at all rushing. What we are doing today, Madam Speaker, is basically the culmination of the exercise of the last 20 years. How many attempts have been made? Let me count. 67 Constitutional Amendment Bill in 1990. 82nd Constitutional Amendment Bill in 1997. The 98th Constitutional Amendment Bill in 2003. And the 120th Constitutional Amendment Bill, accompanied with Judicial Appointment Bill 2013, which your government was kind enough to bring. Therefore, there have been as many as 4 attempts in the last 20 years to have an amendment in this Constitution, as far as the appointment of higher judiciary is concerned. How many reports have been there in the past? Let me share with this august House today. There have been Justice Venkatacharya Commission in 2002. Justice Venkatacharya was the Chief Justice of India, a very eminent judge. There has been Administrative Reform Commission 2007. I don't know Mr. Virappa Moily is present here or not. He was a very distinguished chairman of that commission, who also recommended that National Judicial Commission be established in whatever form, and the collegiate system needs to be changed. The Law Commission of India 2014 report 2008. I will also refer to that subsequently. Parliamentary Standing Committee report, 21st report on Judges Inquiry Bill, 28th report on Supreme Court number of Judges Bill, 44th report on the age of retirement judges. Therefore, 4 attempts for constitutional amendment, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 recommendations by various committees over the years, all emphasizing that the collegium system of appointment for the judges of the honorable judges of the High Court, the Supreme Court, and the Chief Justices need to be changed. Madam, today I would like to share with this House as to how we have come here. It is very important that I share this. When the Constitution was framed, great debate occurred as to what should be done and what should not be done. Madam, various modes were suggested. Three modes came to great scrutiny. Should the President appoint himself? Should the President appoint in consultation with the Executive? Should the President appoint in consultation with the Parliament? Or should the President appoint in consultation with the Chief Justice of India? These were indeed the great issues which were matter of great concern and consideration. Madam, ultimately Dr. Ambedkar, in his very persuasive and very eloquent words, stated that now we need to consider that judiciary should be independent, due credit must be given and importance be given to the office of the Chief Justice, and also the executive must have a say. Therefore, Article 124 for Supreme Court and 217 for the High Court was enacted, stating inter alia that the President shall appoint the Chief Justice and the judges of Supreme Court, and while doing so, he will certainly consult the Chief Justice. And while doing for the High Court, consultation with the Chief Justice of the High Court was also postulated. Therefore, it was a proper balance of the executive and the judiciary. Madam, I would like to quote Ambedkar here. It's very important. About the role of Chief Justice. And I have great personal regard for Dr. Ambedkar, one of the finest India has ever produced. His outstanding ability, his understanding, and his contribution in the working of the Constitution and creation of the Constitution is indeed legendary. And I would request many of the young members of the Parliament to please read the life of Dr. Ambedkar. What he said, and I would like to quote from the Constituent Assembly debates. With regard to the question of concurrence of the Chief Justice, it seems to me that those who advocate the proposition seem to rely implicitly both on the impartiality of the Chief Justice and the soundness of his judgment. I personally feel no doubt the Chief Justice is a very eminent person, but after all, the Chief Justice is a man with all the failings, all the sentiments, and all the prejudices which we common people have. And I think to allow the Chief Justice practically a veto upon the appointment of judges is really to transfer the authority to the Chief Justice, which we are not prepared to vest in the President or the government of the day. I therefore think that that is also a dangerous proposition. Therefore, Dr. Ambedkar, while framing the Constitution, was very clear. And today, as the Law Minister of India moving this important bill, I wish to salute Dr. Ambedkar, Shri Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, for understanding the real wisdom of India's polity, that there must be a healthy blend. Namely, the President must not have unbridled powers, and the Chief Justice should also not have unbridled powers. There must be healthy coordination and consultation. It worked very well. There were some ups and downs, particularly when we heard about committed judiciary. That is a separate chapter altogether. Today, the people of India have learned to trust the polity of India. They have the power and authority. They can unseat any political leader, any political party from power, be in the state or the center. And surely the maturity of Indian democracy has emerged, which also recognizes the supremacy of Parliament, respect of Parliament, and also the integrity and independence of judiciary. That's how it has grown over the years. Now, Madam, today I would like to share something, my own experience. I had the privilege to work as a Minister of Law at the junior level in Vajpayee government. I've also been a practicing lawyer in Patna High Court and then Supreme Court. And I had the occasion to see the judiciary of working over the years, apart from being an activist fighting in the JP movement and anti-emergency struggle. From 1950 till 1993, the system worked very well. Occasional stress. Today, there is no pre-collegium appointee as a judge in India. Kalyan Babu, correct me if I'm wrong. All are appointee of the collegium system after 1993. I'll come to that separately. But Madam Speaker, today I would like to ask a question in this honorable house. Why we don't have judges like V.R. Krishna Iyer today? Why we don't have judges like H.R. Khanna today? This is a question to be asked. The reason as to why I have taken the name of H.R. Khanna, Madam, I would like to share when this individual freedom was under great stress during 70s in the ADM Jabalpur Shukla case, where the Supreme Court gave a judgment, I would say regretfully, that even if a detainee is killed inside a prison, he had no remedy. He held aloft the flag of liberty. And I remember the New York Times writing about him, if ever democracy will return India, Indian must erect a plaque of gold for H.R. Khanna. That has been the tradition of the judges of India, I would like to say here. I'm telling you, Bijan Mukherjee, Vivian Bose, Patanjali Shastri, S.R. Das, it is a legend, and many from... All right, I agree with you. Therefore, Madam, we are very proud of the legend of judges who came. Madam, when I am sitting here, let me share something with you with all respect. There have been flaws also. Justice G.P. Singh was the Chief Justice of Jabalpur High Court for 5 years. I call him as a rishi of modern jurisprudence. He has written books on India's interpretation statute, and it is quoted like an authority. But that is also a fact that G.P. Singh could not come to the Supreme Court. But those are issues also to be considered. Muhammad Karim Chagla was the Chief Justice for 11 years in Bombay High Court, but he also could not come to the Supreme Court. A brilliant judge, I salute him here. Now, Madam, in 1993 a judgment came. What was the judgment? Article 24 says, the President shall appoint a judge in consultation with the Supreme Court Chief Justice and also the High Court in case of High Court. In effect, the substance of the judgment is, which I say with great respect, that the Chief Justice will appoint the judges in consultation with the President. That is how it became reversed. I'm sorry to say that. And what was the message? That you will only have an informal and arrangement to be communicated. You can seek a reconsideration of the proposals made. And if the collegium in its wisdom decides to reiterate the decision, it is binding on you. Therefore, the role of the executive became very, very limited. Yes, they had got the right to be consulted, amply informed, but this was how it was reread. Madam, this issue has come about repeatedly. Today I would like to share with you how this whole concern was expressed. The first concern came by the government, which sought a reference to the Supreme Court under Article 143, the second judge's case. In 1998, what the Supreme Court did, that the Chief Justice with 2 judges was enlarged to Chief Justice with 5 judges, 4 judges, it became 5. But collegium system said, for the independence of judiciary, we are having these principles established. Madam, as I say, and I think all the House is with me, that we all want independence of judiciary, due respect for that. But when I say independence of judiciary, I must reiterate that the sanctity of Parliament is equally important, which we all need to appreciate. When sitting in Parliament, we talk about it, Honorable Madam Speaker. This is a representative of the people of India, the diversity of India, the hope, aspiration, agony of India. And they come here with a view that when we reflect, we seek accountability of the executive, and we also reflect the concern of the people of India. Surely, the supremacy of Parliament is equally important. While I say that the independence of judiciary is important, separation of power is equally a basic structure. It is also a part of the Constitution. Therefore, parliamentary democracy, integrity, independence, supremacy of Parliament, integrity, independence of judiciary, and respect to the people's wish, that is how the democracy functions. Madam Speaker, I want to assure the honorable members of this House that the government has got no intention whatsoever to have any confrontation with the judiciary. No, not at all. We respect the judiciary as an article of faith. But when we have come to have this bill, we are seeking to only reiterate that the constitutional arrangement as envisaged, which has been reflected upon from time to time by so many commissions, so many standing committee, with widest stake consultation possible, needs to be reflected. Madam, let me share with this Honourable House how the whole issue has been articulated from time to time. Madam, there was the Law Commission report. This is 85th report of Law Commission. And I'm quoting, I want this to go on record for the honourable members. This committee is aware that for this state of affairs, the Union Law Ministry is not blameworthy, as the entire process of initiation of proposal for appointment of new judges is no longer the responsibility of the executive as a result of a decision of the Supreme Court. Though it was not contemplated in the Constitution, responsibility for judicial appointment now rests in the domain of the judiciary. The Union Law Minister is accountable to Parliament for the delay in filling up of the vacancies of judges, but he has functionally no contribution to make. The Supreme Court read into the Constitution a power to appoint judges that was not conferred upon it by the text of the context. The underlying purpose of securing judicial independence was salutary, but the method of acquiring for the court the exclusive power to appoint judges by the process of judicial interpretation is open to question. This is the Law Commission saying that. Madam Speaker, late Justice J.S. Verma, a very eminent judge, who wrote the judgment of 1993, clearly said, my 1993 judgment, which holds the field, was very much misunderstood and misused. It was in this context that I said the working of the judgment now for some time is raising serious questions which cannot be called unreasonable. Therefore, some kind of rethink is required. My judgment says the appointment process of High Court and Supreme Court judges is basically a joint or participatory exercise between the executive and the judiciary, both taking part in it. There was Justice J.S. Verma, who wrote the 1993 judgment establishing the collegium system, himself was critical that our judgment has been completely misread and not been properly used. Madam Speaker, with Justice Venkat Chalaiya, again a distinguished Chief Justice, was heading the Constitution Review Commission formed by the Vajpayee government. I want to assure my friends of the opposition that we in the BJP has been supportive of the National Judicial Commission right from day one. There have been views of some political party to go to pre-1993, but even in Vajpayee government our commitment was that. Even in 2009 our commitment was that. And even in 2014 Lok Sabha election, our manifesto clearly stated that we want a National Judicial Commission. So therefore, we have been quite consistent as far as this is concerned. I'll come to that. Madam, I must acknowledge that Mr. Kharge's party, when they were in power, also they brought a bill. They brought a bill as an enabling provision, and rest was in a separate ordinary bill. It was passed by the other house, came here. When the bill went to the standing committee recommended that you please bring the entire architecture in the Constitution itself, the Commission, and don't leave it to ordinary bill. The standing committee also recommended that you please improve the ordinary bill, laying down the procedure for appointment, etc. In fairness, again, your previous government brought an amendment here to that bill, but that lapsed because the House got dissolved. That bill I have withdrawn, which has nothing provision in it. In the present bill, which I will come separately, all the recommendations of the standing committee substantially have been taken into account. I will reply to that elaborately once the discussion, I hear the points. But madam, I must say in all fairness, that when I became the law minister, I started taking up this cause. The first thing I decided, I will have a proper, fresh consultation with eminent people. The first consultation I did was with eminent jurists. And I called a meeting, madam. I wish to assure this house. Justice A.H. Ahmadi, former Chief Justice of India. V.N. Khare, former Chief Justice. Shri Sholi Sorabji, Shri Fali Nariman, Shri Santi Bhushan, Shri K. Parasaran, Shri K.K. Venugopal, Mr. KTS Tulsi, Justice AP Shah, Chairman of the Law Commission, Professor Madhav Menon, Upendra Singh, Anil B. Diwan, Beer Singh Ji, the Chairman of Bar Council of India, the present Attorney General, the present Solicitor General, Arun Jaitley in capacity as an eminent lawyer, and I presided. All came, and except one, all supported National Judicial Commission. Many could not come, but I remember G.P. Patnaik, the former Chief Justice, rang me to say, I cannot come, but I completely approve this proposal. Mr. P.P. Rao, Mr. Ashok Desai, Mr. T.R. Adharojana, Mr. Harish Salve, and Jean Mahanvati all supported that we want this to go. This was the widest consultation possible. Thereafter, I wrote personal letter as the Law Minister to 26 heads of political parties in India, seeking their opinion on this. I am happy to announce, Madam, that Mulayam Singh Ji was kind enough to Ram Gopal Ji to support the initiative. Ram Vilas Ji's party is there, they supported. CPI, CPM, Sudhakar Reddy Ji and Prakash Karat wrote to me. Tariq Anwar Ji here, Sharad Pawar Ji wrote to me. Madam Mayawati Ji wrote to me. And Madam Jalalta Ji and... I will come to that, I will come. You have the right to speak, I will reply to that. I am only saying what I did, I will come to that. Please, just 5 minutes more. Honorable Mamta Ji and Honorable Jalalta Ji, I have regards for both of them. In their recommendations, suggested something. I have tried to address that, I will come to that separately. I also wrote to Honorable Sonia Gandhi Ji, and sure their views will be known to me. I understand that they will be conveying their view. Therefore, Sharad Yadav Ji all wrote to me. All political parties, major political parties. Madam, I must tell you, in all fairness, that there have been some suggestions come, you are right. Some suggestions, spirit, we have accepted. Others I will reply when you make the point. But what is the architecture today, madam? And that is my last point I wish to say. The National Judicial Commission shall be headed by the Chief Justice of India. It will have 2 senior-most judges of the Supreme Court of India. Law Minister shall be there. 2 eminent persons to be selected by Honorable the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India, and the Leader of Opposition or the Leader of the largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha. One of the eminent persons shall be from SC, ST, OBC, women and minority. Therefore, this is the whole architecture. The National Judicial Commission shall have got the right and duty to make appointment to the post of Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the High Court, judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court. They will appoint men of ability and integrity. The senior-most judge of the Supreme Court shall be appointed as the Chief Justice if he is able. Then the details of their powers and regulations have been framed in the other act which I have moved separately together to be considered. What does it say? The National Judicial Commission shall make appointment to the judges to the Supreme Court. Apart from taking eligibility criteria in the Constitution, if they appoint a High Court judge to the Supreme Court, apart from seniority, his ability and merit will also be considered. That is, they mention clearly that. In case of High Court, the name shall be started by the Chief Justice, who will consult 2 senior-most judges and as many other judges as can be framed by regulations. Why this? We have got Allahabad High Court, nearly 100 judges. We have got Sikkim High Court and other High Courts, small judges. We have got Calcutta High Court, we have got Mumbai High Court, big judges. Therefore, let regulation decide as to how many other judges the Chief Justice must consult. Please, I'm coming to that. Oh, 2 minutes. The Chief Justice will also consider eminent lawyers of that High Court as laid down by the regulations to be framed by the National Judicial Commission. The law also says that the names recommended by the Chief Justice will also have separately the views of the Governor and the Chief Minister of that state, which shall go to the Commission. When I say the Governor, by Governor I mean the Governor in the constitutional sense who has to act on the aid and advice of the Chief Minister. Please, a little patience, Kalyan Babu. The Commission can also recommend names for the High Court, but it also need to be approved in the same manner from the High Court Chief Justice, the Governor and the Chief Minister. Madam, 2 things I would like to say in conclusion. If 2 members of the commission oppose the recommendation, it shall not be carried. Giving a primacy to the judiciary, the Chief Justice, the 2 honorable judges, the Chief is also a member of the 3-member group to appoint eminent judges, eminent persons, and also the Chief of the High Court. But there is one provision more in this. The last thing I would like to say. The recommendations made by the Commission shall be accepted by the government. However, if the President of India makes a request for given reasons to consider any proposal made, then the Commission will consider that. And if the Commission considers that it will reiterate the previous opinion, then it must be unanimous. This provision is only to give due deference to the highest authority in India, that is the President of India. Madam, this is the brief architecture of the bill. I'll reply to others when I hear the debate. But Madam, last thing, I have to make an appeal to this House. I am not a member of this House. I am not a member of this House, though I am in the other House for the last so many years, nearly 14 years. But I always consider, Madam, the Lok Sabha is the biggest panchayat of India. Apart from passing law, apart from giving majority to the party to form the government, as a panchayat, it reflects the aspiration of India, the ecstasy of India, the aspirations of India, and the urges of India. That is the glorious tradition of this House. With that tradition today, I am appealing to this House to rise above all consideration and show a great unity of purpose, that this House has the resolve to work in unison to ensure that the judiciary's dignity is properly maintained and we have a fair procedure for appointment of High Court judges and Supreme Court judges. That is my appeal to this House. तो माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदया, मैं बहुत विनम्रता से इस महान सदन के विद्वान सदस्यों से अपील करता हुआ कि यह सदन देश की चेतना, देश की राजनीति, देश की लोकनीति और देश की आशाओं का प्रतीक है। आज का दिन ऐतिहासिक है, आप समर्थन करेंगे, इतना ही करके अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
The House stands adjourned to meet again at 2 p.m.